Hello, this is Wendy Kirkpatrick. I'm here with my husband Jim, and we are pleased to be bringing you another quick tip in the series entitled Avoid the Allure of Training Activity. This tip is called Acting as a Learning and Performance Consultant. So, Jim, let's talk a little bit about what kinds of problems exist out there in terms of training and performance.
Thanks, Wendy. I think we're all probably pretty familiar with the concept that a lot of training is being delivered that is not hitting the mark when it comes to performance improvement and impact. And it's oftentimes selected without much thought given to other possible interventions. How often people knee-jerk and make the recommendation that let's send people to training without realizing there are other solutions that are probably going to hit the mark better. And this is not only the most typical choice, but it's among the most expensive, that of training. There's a lot of activity out there that when training, retraining, recertification is provided that doesn't hit the mark, the business suffers because the needs, the problems, and the opportunities that we are trying to impact in the business are not impacted. A 2006 ASTD study suggests that as much as 90% of, quote, training failure comes from factors other than faulty formal training. So we really need to do something about this.
Jim, I think some people might find that statistic just a little bit surprising. So let's talk about how that could happen. And I'll do that through our first recommendation for all of you, which is when you are approached with a major training request, schedule time, probably at least 30 minutes, for a detailed needs assessment conversation. What we mean by that is ask many questions and find out everything you can about the actual situation that's occurring on the job that has caused somebody to ask you for training to be delivered. Because the reality is, training can only fix problems related to a lack of knowledge or a lack of skill. And so often what we find out, and what was discovered in that ASTD study, is that people know what they need to do, and they even know how to do it. But there could be multiple other reasons why they aren't doing what they're supposed to do on the job. So some organizational problems that you may uncover that cannot be fixed by training are things like a lack of support and accountability on the job, or faulty processes and systems, or just really unclear expectations, or lack of priorities, changing priorities, so people don't know what are the most important things to do and when.
Those are good suggestions, Wendy, and we'll hopefully head off horror stories that we hear from organizations that talk about training that they have delivered year after year after year, never hitting the mark as far as the impact that's been targeted by their business leaders. One more recommendation is that if you discover one or more of these issues that can't be remedied by training, continue the conversation with stakeholders and sponsors around what types of support could help improve performance. Now, they may not like to hear that there are other options, because training is a very easy one to snap your fingers and say do it. But really, some of these things are so powerful and so important that you need to keep pressing the conversation as tactfully as you can. Many of these things may be out of your area of responsibility, but do what you can to try and offer support. Some of these may come in terms of process improvements that you can help initiate, accountability systems that you can help build and monitor, and reminders, job aids, and statements of importance that will help the learner, the supervisors, the managers, and the stakeholders realize that it's a package that is going to solve these business needs and issues, not a training event.
Now, to bring all of this to life for you, Jim and I were chatting as we were planning for this quick tip, and he reminded me of a chain of hospitals that he worked with and how they kind of got trapped in that cycle of thinking, oh, training will fix this, training can always fix it. And they just kept doing training over and over again and didn't get what they were looking for. So I'm going to call on Jim to share that story with you to bring to life what we've been talking about for the last few minutes.
Well, Wendy, you're right. There are real stories behind these rather than just theoretical and hypotheticals. There's a hospital network, the Children's Hospital Network on the west coast of the U.S., that realized that their patient satisfaction scores were below par. and it was starting to cost them patients and revenue and well-being in the community. So they decided to initiate a program called Service to You, and they brought in hundreds and hundreds of doctors and nurses and x-ray technicians and admins, parking attendants. Everybody was taking this training in order to create better bedside manner, if you will, in all areas to try and improve this patient satisfaction. Well, the first year it didn't work, so they thought, wow, this is a tougher problem than we thought. Let's try it again. So they dusted off the manuals and touched up the simulations and the role plays a little bit and ran the program again. Hundreds of people, many thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and again after year 2 the patient satisfaction scores stayed flatline. Long story short, they ran this program 5 years out of 6. Oh, they touched it up a little bit, made the PowerPoint slides prettier, and made the exercises more compelling. But the problem was they never did any level 3 or leading indicators of level 4 evaluation to discover that this was not working. And even though intuitively the trainers knew the problem was in the culture and in the clinics and in the hospital wards and on the units, they did not have any evidence when they said it's not a training problem, it's a follow-through, follow-up problem. And in the end, the money was wasted, the patient satisfaction scores did not improve, and the training people lost a lot of budget and a lot of jobs.
Thanks, Jim. So in that example, what we heard, and frankly, the story that we hear around the world is there is a lot to lose if we just blindly trust that non-training professionals can diagnose independently when training is required or when other interventions might be more apt. So we hope that you stick with us for the rest of this quick tip series called Avoid the Allure of Training Activity. To do that, all you need to do is a quick and free registration with us at kirkpatrickpartners.com, and you'll get a quick tip just like this delivered to your inbox every Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you here next week.